Hello and welcome to the very first episode of An Idiot's Guide to Current Affairs. Thank you. Steady on. Thank you.
You can't beat a cheap sound effect.
It is just I'm your host, James, and I'm joined today by the show's co-hosts and experts on matters and life.
I'm Samir. I'm a broadcast journalist, allegedly. Well, at least I'm training to be one. I've got loads of expertise in lots of areas. Politics and then transport, mostly, weirdly. And a few other bits, but generally I am a bit of an idiot.
I'm Kira. I haven't got a lot of expertise in anything, but that's why I'm a great idiot for this podcast. Woo!
Hi everyone, I'm Zhao Na and I come from China.
Should we explain a little bit about the podcast and why we're doing it?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We're here because basically I think the common belief with the news and everything around the world nowadays is everything needs a bit of context.
Exactly.
It's a bit over-explained to a matter where people lose interest before they even get into it, really.
And also there's so much news and it's all very complicated. So the idea of this pod is to essentially make it a bit more digestible. And also it means we all learn a little bit more about areas that we might not necessarily have any expertise.
There we go. And it's welcome to all. If you're an idiot, great. If you're not, no shame in it.
No shame in that at all. So, without any further ado, should we jump into our first topic of the podcast?
Perfect.
So, for those who have been following the news, which if you're listening to this podcast, probably not. That's the whole point of it anyway. And you'll have noticed that in the news today being the 8th of February, recording this, the world's first year-long breach of this 1.5 degrees warming limit has occurred, which might not sound like a lot and it might seem a bit arbitrary, but the whole purpose of this thing, obviously global warming, it's a terrible thing. It's going to kill us all, essentially, is what they're saying. And the limit in 2015 of global warming was set at 1.5. And last year, so I think it's from January of 2023 to February of this year, the average temperature across the world has been 1.5 degrees higher than it was in 2015, which was the target, and we've passed it, and that's not a good thing.
So what exactly does that mean?
So basically, it means the world on average is 1.5 degrees hotter, and that has a lot of issues that come along with it, in that, things stop working, like systems, proteins in animals will, what they call denature, which is where they stop being the right shape and they stop doing their work, basically. Things stop working.
I don't know if this is the idiot in me or not, but 1.5 degrees doesn't seem like a lot. Does it just mean instead of 10 degrees average, we're at 11.5 degrees? I mean, that's...
Well, it isn't a lot, but the consequences of it are a lot. So, for example, even in Britain, we've got quite a mild climate here. Like, it's snowing today. That's quite a rare thing. And that's why the country shuts down. In the summer, generally, it gets, obviously a few years ago, it got up to about 40 degrees, but generally it stays low. But we could see a little bit more ferocious weather. Across the world generally is where we're going to see real issues. More flooding, more droughts, crops failing, because that's a big thing about it. Crops and animals and generally nature is very set at how things should be naturally, but because humans have sort of meddled about and increased the temperature, they aren't working quite as well as they once did. So you see issues like that. For example, even in this country, we've already had more named storms. So they're sort of, Storm Nora, things like that. You hear about them on the news all the time. These are storms that are bad enough to categorise, essentially. And we've already had more named storms this year, at this point this year, than in any other previous year. So even in this country, we're seeing far more bad weather. And that is generally a consequence of global warming. And it is this sort of 1.5 degrees thing. It's not a tipping point, like it's not the end game, like we're not like, oh, we're all going to burn and die now, but it was like, if we could keep it below that, brilliant.
So what do we do?
Well, that's the thing. We need to do something, naturally, because we need a future. And also, we've already had a migrant crisis due to conflicts and wars. This could lead to a climate migration crisis, so people migrating from countries that might not exist anymore because they're flooded, or they can't grow crops there, so people have to move to milder climates. Europe has those milder climates.
I think that's the main thing. Like I just said a minute ago, yeah, it might not be a bit of an issue for us, but
it's a huge issue.
The countries that are like Northern Africa, Qatar, things like that, they're already averaging 40 odd degrees. That little bit more is a bit of an issue.
Exactly. And, it's always in the news. Immigration is a huge issue. You've seen the government saying stop the boats all the time. Well, they might actually be creating a few more boats if they don't sort this out. And that's what countries need to get together, essentially. And it's frustrating for a lot of climate people that I speak to who have been sort of going on about this stuff for about 70 years, and not a lot's changed. We've never really got our head around it. In fact, things have probably got worse. We've started to see a lot more plastic and a lot more things like that. And I think another thing the international community needs to stop doing is blaming the developing world, and particularly China, because at the end of the day, those countries pump out more fumes than European and Western countries, but at the end of the day, the factories pumping out those fumes are owned by Western companies, and they are the products that we as British people, as Westerners, buy in shops. Unilever, companies like that, they're the ones that are funding these factories that are causing these emissions. So we do need to sort of take an individual responsibility, but at the end of the day, it really takes governments to come together to actually pull their fingers out and do something, which is not actually what either British party are going to do. Labour Party have ditched their £28 billion green investment plan, and the Conservatives keep pushing back on their pleasures to net zero, which is delaying the ban on diesel and petrol vehicles till 2035.
Which I think as well, with a general election coming, we thought, you know what, maybe they'd invest in a bit more of a future.
What it does
into
prove,
goals.
though, is that they don't think that climate policy is electable.
Yeah.
And that's a worrying thing. And that's where we as people, need to vote with our feet and sort of make sure that the government realise that these are issues that people care about.
Whether you're a genius or an idiot, it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening, and we need to do something about it. We can't be ignorant to it.
2024, then the year of change.
Hopefully, yeah.
There we go.
But there we go. Should we move on to the next topic?
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah. So let's have a listen to. Well, what would you like to have a listen to?
Liz, tell us your special say.
Sure. So this Friday is tomorrow. It will be a Chinese New Year's Eve called Chuxi, and it is one of the most important traditional Chinese festivals. It's based on the lunar calendar, and which is why the date changes each year. And the festival marks the beginning of the Lunar New Year, which falls sometimes between late January and mid-February.
Brilliant. I mean, I think obviously we've all heard of Chinese New Year and it's where did it exactly originate? Why did it start? Why is it different?
Actually, the exact originals of the Chinese New Year are not clear, but it is said to have originated in ancient times, and it was meant to drive away a scary monster called Nian, which means years in English, and which would come out every year to scare people and animals and eat their food. But the villagers discovered that Nian was afraid of loud noises, bright lights, and the color red. So they started using fireworks, hanging red decorations, and wearing red clothes to scare the monster away. This tradition became part of the Chinese New Year celebrations, reminding people to be brave and stay together to overcome challenges.
It's lovely. And so obviously we've got this lunar calendar. It's not the Gregorian calendar that we use in Britain. Obviously, the world is fairly homogenous now. Like, people sort of, doesn't matter where you are.
No big words.
Sorry,
idiots. No big words.
The world generally is a bit similar. No matter where you go, we all drink the same coffee. We wear the same clothes. In most countries, it's the same year. So how much does the lunar calendar actually have an effect on Chinese culture all year round and not just at New Year's?
I think like in China, every traditional festival, like autumn festival, they are according to lunar calendar instead of like the one we use now.
Mm-hmm.
And also like for some people, especially the elderly, like my parents, they're still using lunar calendar. So when I talk to them, I need to use lunar calendar too. I also think in Chinese New Year, there is a significant boost in economy because people tend to like go out to eat out in a restaurant or go shopping or go travel. So yeah, I think it's very important for Chinese and maybe in Asian, including Korea and Vietnam.
Okay, so it is still very important, but it's also somewhat of a generational thing in that the older generation seem to hang on to it a little bit more than the younger one. Is that
I think so.
right?
So it's like the old people, they are more likely to use Lunar New Year.
I see. That's very interesting.
Are there any customs that come with it? Any specific regular celebrations?
Yes, I think in New Year's Eve we will have a like reunion dinner. Like tomorrow, Friday night, I will go out with my friend and maybe we will have some dumplings or we will have hot pot. But actually, when we talk about the reunion dinner, there are differences between like south and north of China. Like in the south, in my hometown, we tend to have like hot pot is more light, and we will use some goji and some red dates into the hot pot. But in the north, There are more, like the hopper is more spicy and the flavor is more strong.
And you're saying that you might go out for a meal and celebrate with your friend. Is that a common thing that obviously outside of China, traditions are spreading a bit more? It's like we're in Sheffield. Is it going to be a big celebration here as well?
Yes, because like in Sheffield, we got many Chinese and we got many Asian people. So I think in Sheffield, there will be the Sheffield Lunar and Chinese New Year Festival Gala this Saturday. On Sunday, there will be the Spring Festival Gala organized by the Chinese Students and Scholars Association, including Chinese paper cutting and calligraphy, which are cooperated with Confucius Institution.
And I do actually remember learning about the Chinese New Year at school. It was always something that, for some reason, it was like that on the Harvest Festival with the two sort of...
It's one of those where I've always been told about it,
Yes.
informed that it's Chinese, but I know
Generally, we're a bit clueless.
especially the more the traditions, like you're saying, it was to get originally introduced to get rid of an ancient monster and everything. I never really knew the meaning behind it and the traditions and everything. So it's good to know that, obviously, like you're saying, here in Sheffield, there's still going to be a big celebration for it. No matter where you are in the world, it's spread around better.
You know how every year, is this related to firstly, the New Year? You know how you have the Year of the Snake? Is that related to the Chinese New Year or?
I think so far as I know, it's like different year we got different animal, like some maybe it's rabbit year and pig year.
Yeah.
But now it's dragon year, so
Right, cool. So this year's the Year of the Dragon then. That sounds like one of the best ones.
So I remember a few years ago, it wasn't the year after the pig. And I thought
Yeah.
that was a bit underwhelming, that.
Right,
And then
that
that was final topic, haven't we?
Yeah, we're off to a great start so far here, though. So some interesting things, some idiotic things
Yes,
been done, and
We've started off pretty heavy, to be fair, with the old
global war.
bit.
So you know what? Let's bring it in with a bit more of a joyous thing. And Kira, you're an expert on this joyous occasion.
Such
aren't
an expert. So I'm going to be talking to you, about the Super Bowl, which is this Sunday. Yeah, got that one right.
I should hope you know what
Yeah.
it is, because you're the one who...
Yeah, I don't know why I'm
you? You're just trying to trick us.
Yeah. Just double checking, guys. I'm paying
Tuesday
attention.
afternoon.
Yeah. And it's basically the biggest game of American football.
You've played American football before, haven't
Yes, I have played American
you?
football.
Was it professional?
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Injuries took me out, Yeah, that's my credentials. Ex-pro, one game. Yeah. So,
Tell us a bit about it.
yeah. So basically, it is the annual league. So it happens every year, and it's obviously for American football. And this year, it's the 49ers.
San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah, and the Chiefs, which is Kansas City.
Can't you really checks now?
So basically, the main aim of the game is to carry the ball into the opposition's end zone.
So it's like rugby.
Well, yeah, it was based on rugby loosely
Oh, is it?
back in the day, yeah, but they've added their own little bits and
They weren't confident without a helmet, so...
yeah, the helmet does help, I must say. So the field's 100 yards long, 20 yards less than a normal football pitch.
Yep.
And then it's 53 wide. And then there's an extra 10 yards at each end where you can try and score.
Touchdown.
Yeah. And the game is...
Knowledge. Terminology.
The game's actually, in my opinion, quite short and broken up because there's 4 15-minute quarters. So they're not actually running around for that long if you compare it to...
And it is very much a start-stop.
Very much, yeah.
I think the average game lasts for about 3 hours. So
They only play, 60 minutes?
Yeah. What's 15 times 4?
60.
There you go.
There we go.
That's the answer.
Bit of maths thrown in here for you guys as well.
Yeah.
We're treating you today.
So if I could sit through that, for 3 hours.
It's just a bit of a day out.
Yeah.
I suppose it is, though, because
Yeah.
I've seen videos of them all sat outside with their trailers.
Yeah.
Having
Views and everything like that, yeah.
It's
So
vibes. You're there for
yeah.
the vibe.
But I suppose, like with most things in America, it's all about eating.
Yeah. That might be a generalisation.
Yeah.
No, I've been...
But, and we do actually have,
It's not a holiday programme.
to treat you even further, we have an actually interview with a 49ers fan.
We've spoken
Prep
to
for the
an
game.
American.
I think that American football in general is like a huge sport that kind of bonds people together in America, similar to the way that football is a bonding sport in Europe. It's an excuse to talk about something with your peers and colleagues and family and friends. So the Super Bowl in general is like a huge national event. I think even if you don't watch American football, if you're an American citizen, it is just like kind of a given that you're watching the Super Bowl, if not for, just the pop culture in general or the halftime show. It's a huge spectacle, really. So I think that in general, it's a cultural phenomenon in America. I think Super Bowl parties in general could definitely rival Christmas parties for the amount of reunion that you can get from it. And it could totally be argued it's on the holiday level. I know small businesses that will give their employees the day off just to watch the Super Bowl because everyone knows that that is the thing to be watching on Super Bowl Sunday, and nobody else wants to watch anything else. I think the fan culture in America will definitely not be beat for American football maybe, but I think definitely in the UK there's been a bit more of attention being paid to it, a little more credit given. I mean, I see teams on American football teams at universities and in general people paying more attention to it. I know it's very difficult with time zones and games and watching things like that, but I think it's becoming a lot more accessible globally. Me personally, I'm a 49ers fan, but that's just because I'm from the West Coast, so I don't know. The Chiefs might have it in the bag after moving from the momentum of last year, but I'm personally an underdog rooting individual, so I will be rooting for the 49ers.
Wow. That was brilliantly
Very interesting.
an authentic 49ers fan. That was brilliant. I mean,
All the way from the US of A.
all the way.
Budget's gone now.
It's gone. My landline, my mum threw it out because too much long distance phones. So it was made a nice pen pal for life there. So it's
Okay, wonderful. And that's what you want. You want
Yeah.
a pen pal for life.
Yeah,
I always wanted one growing up, but I never got one.
so did I. My mum told me to write to prisoners. We did it at church. We actually did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Were they prisoners in our country? Or
Yeah, in our country.
okay. Interesting.
Actually,
In church.
yeah, church.
It's a sidetrack, isn't
Yeah, okay, sorry.
it? Tell us about your pen pal in prison.
I can't remember much. I just remember writing, I believe in you. You can get better. And that was about it. I don't know if they said...
Life sentence.
You see that's a sidetrack, but that's actually a brilliant little segue onto next week's episode.
Is it?
Because we actually have an interview with someone serving life next week. We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
That's my specialty topic at least. Sam, can I tell us
Is it
your...
Don Perry who's...
Sadly not. Sadly not. I mean, I'd like to tell you exactly his crime, but I don't want to spoil next week.
Was
I
it-
can hear all about it.
I've got a few sort of headlines for next week.
Yeah,
Go on.
I can read them out in a BBC
Go on.
News style.
tell them what's coming.
What was it?
So, British government have unveiled ambitious plans to combat rain.
Rain.
The idea is
I like
giant
rain.
umbrellas for every citizen. And the question is, will
Ju-
you partake? Just huge ones.
Huge
massive.
umbrellas?
Yeah, everyone gets one.
Like a golfing umbrella.
Pretty much, but bigger.
I'll lose mine.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to be seated for that because how do you battle nature?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they're taking it on.
Oof.
Royal household are struggling for funds. We know. They're always getting their funding cut. So King Charles is considering opening Buckingham Palace as a theme park. And again, the question is, would you go?
I mean, I'd see sausage fingers myself any day.
Yeah, to be fair, I'd be there. I've always wanted to get in there. I was going to do a maid thing so I could just get in Buckingham Palace.
You know, this was on a quiz show the other day. About half the rooms in Buckingham Palace are bedrooms for the staff.
Doesn't
Yeah.
surprise.
And therefore, it's already set for a theme park. Stay the night in Buckingham Palace.
Perfect.
I like that.
Yeah.
Might cheapen it down a
Be
little
like
bit.
Alton Towers, but a bit more upmarket.
Oh, a bit class. Black
Alton Towers.
tie Alton Towers.
Black tie.
Black tie.
I would go to a black tie theme
Theme
park.
park. Where
Why, you have to wear heels?
you have to wear a tux to go on the rides.
Yeah, perfect.
It's not you have to be this high. It's you have to be this dapper.
The dresses might blow up a bit though on the ride.
And finally, Parliament has decided to install a giant hamster wheel for MPs to boost productivity. Yet another case of expenses being taken advantage of. We'll see you there for the discussion on that one.
I've actually heard as well through the grapevine. I have a couple of contacts in Parliament who actually said that one of them is planning on, I can't name names for NDA reasons, but one of them has already planned to get a GoPro and he's going to live stream every time he runs. And the other person has pledged to crawl on it, and for every 100 metres, she will ask for a donation and donate that straight to a charity. But she specified not Dogs Trust, as she's a cat person.
Trust. Well, I totally can get behind that because I hate dogs. Anyway, should we call it a day there?
That's a bombshell and life, isn't it?
And on that bombshell, it is time to end.
Good night.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
listening
Thank
and watching. If we've decided to do this in a video format,
And if you've done it in both,
we've done it in both.
find a better hobby.
Yeah.